I'm Janelle Burrel.
And I'm Jim Donovan. Next at noon, still too close to call. The top two candidates in Pennsylvania's GOP primary race for U.S. Senate are running neck and neck. The latest on this razor-thin race. Larissa.
Well, Jim, Janelle, it is nice and sunny out, but rain is on the way. I have your forecast coming up.
All right, Larissa, and the U.S. Soccer Federation reaching a milestone agreement on equal pay. The news at noon is next.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center in Philadelphia, this is CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Right now at noon, once again, all eyes are on the Keystone State today, but it's still too close to call for the top two Republican candidates running for the U.S. Senate. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Donovan. Welcome to CBS 3 Eyewitness News at noon, now streaming live on CBS News Philly.
And I'm Janelle Burrel. Here is a live look at the Philadelphia Ballot Processing Center. This is in Northeast Philadelphia, where the mail-in ballots are being counted. Now, the results of the U.S. Senate race still uncertain at this hour, with thousands of votes still left to be counted all across the Commonwealth.
With 95% of precincts reporting, Trump-backed TV doctor Mehmet Oz has a narrow lead over former hedge fund manager Dave McCormick. Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Roberts is live in Northeast Philadelphia with the very latest. Good afternoon, Alicia.
Good afternoon to you, Jim and Janelle. Well, here we go again. At issue here in Pennsylvania and here in Philadelphia County is those mail-in ballots. That dirty little word at play, pre-canvassing. We'll get to that in a moment. Here by the numbers are what we just learned from Philadelphia's chairwoman of election. More than 28,000 mail-in ballots have yet to be counted. That does not include those mail-in ballots that were dropped off in person yesterday. So there are still thousands of ballots waiting to be counted, still to be processed, and some of that is happening behind me. Let's take you inside. This is a live look at one of two counting centers going on right now. Teams have been working around the clock since Election Day, and we've got two teams in this site here off the Roosevelt Boulevard. One is still intaking those ballot machines from yesterday, doing their checks and balances there. The other is working on those mail-in ballots. There's quite a process for that. Everything from opening two envelopes, a mailing envelope to a certified envelope, and then making sure those forms are completed properly before being able to feed them into those machines. That's what takes all the time. And here in Pennsylvania, there is a law that says you cannot start doing any of that counting, any of that organizing until 7 a.m. yesterday morning, Election Day. It's something the chairwoman spoke about as to the reason for those delays and something she hopes will be changed for upcoming elections. Take a listen.
Being able to go through them, open them, scan, look at them, get them ready for scanning even. We can't do anything with them until 7 a.m. And other states throughout the country that have mail-in voting and vote by mail in these large numbers, most of them have the ability to pre-canvass. That's why you see totals come out sooner in those areas.
And pre-canvassing is just the formal word for really getting everything sorted, opening those envelopes, getting them ready to feed into the machine so that some of that pre-work can be done so that we can get timely results. It's something she says erodes trust in the election system, something that she is hoping to change. Now, I asked her when. That is the big question. When do we expect all of those mail-in ballots to be counted? We'll take a listen to this. She's not even hopeful that that will be done completely and accurately today. She's saying more specifically, it's likely to come tomorrow, Thursday, and or even Friday. That is something we are going to stay on top of today. We will be here all throughout the afternoon. Look for another live update coming up at 4 o'clock. For now, reporting live in the Northeast, Alicia Roberts, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Alicia, we know you'll continue to watch that closely for us. Thank you for that. Meanwhile, supporters rallied around U.S. Senate candidate Kathy Barnett last night, the Montgomery County native surging in the polls over the last week, but she'll still finish third in the GOP race behind Dr. Oz and McCormick. Last night, Barnett and her supporters were in high spirits at her campaign headquarters in Elizabethtown. She told the crowd that she will not concede until all of the votes are counted. And here's a broader look at the latest numbers for you, giving us a full view of the race as it stands right now at this moment. You can see that tight race between McCormick and Dr. Oz with just about 2,400 votes separating the two, with Kathy Barnett in third and Carla Sands in fourth. Jeff Bardos, George Bachetto, and Steve Gale all finishing with low single-digit percentages. Now, on the Democratic ticket, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, he'll be the one to face the Republican Republican U.S. Senate candidate in the general election this fall. Fetterman still in the hospital today after having a heart procedure. He easily defeated State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta, Jenkintown Borough Councilmember Alex Khalil, and Congressman Connor Lamb. Hours before the polls closed last night, Fetterman underwent a successful surgery to implant a pacemaker after having a stroke last week. His doctors say the pacemaker will address the underlying cause of his stroke, and he was able to briefly address his supporters during his wife's acceptance speech.
The matchup for Pennsylvania's next governor has been decided. Democrat Josh Shapiro will face Republican Doug Mastriano in the general election in November. The two are vying to succeed Governor Tom Wolf, who is limited to serving 2 consecutive terms in office. In the race for lieutenant governor, Allegheny County State Representative Austin Davis is the projected winner for the Democrats. Davis taking more than 60% of votes, beating out State Representative Brian Sims from Philadelphia and Ray Sosa of Montgomery County. Over on the Republican ticket, State Representative Carrie Lewis Del Rosso of Allegheny County is the winner with just over a quarter of the vote. Other GOP candidates include Clarice Schillinger and James Jones of Montgomery County, Northampton County Executive John Brown, and former Representative Rick Saccone. The Associated Press has called the Democratic primary in the 3rd Congressional District for incumbent Dwight Evans. He ran against political newcomers Alexandra Hunt and Michael Cogbill. Evans has been a member of Congress since 2016.
And in Lancaster County, election officials were unable to scan about 22,000 mail-in ballots because of incorrect codes that were printed on those ballots. The county says they'll be duplicating those ballots by hand and then scan them over the next few days. Over in Berks County, voting locations stayed open until 9 o'clock last night after there were issues there with electronic poll books. And as counties across the state continue to count those remaining ballots, we're making sure we keep you up to date. Our coverage of the Pennsylvania primary continues online at cbsphilly.com/PA Primary 2022, where you can find the very latest election results.
In other news this noon, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court returned to its roots today with a visit to Philadelphia. The state's highest court held an oral argument session at Old City Hall, where the court originally met back in the late 1700s. The event kicks off commemoration events for the court's 300th anniversary. The justices gavelled in their session today at nearby Independence Hall, which was also a previous meeting place for the court centuries ago.
And they had a beautiful day. It's been sunny, refreshing outside. Here's a live look at Cape May at this hour. Now is the time to get out, get that walk in if you're able to. Meteorologist Larissa Abreu in the Weather Center tracking some showers and then heat. It's going to be hot after that, Larissa.
It's going to turn scorching hot, Janelle. Yes, right now is the time to head outside as we're tracking relatively quiet conditions. High pressure still very much in control. It's nice and quiet out there. It's also comfy outside, which is probably the word we need to highlight today. It's comfortable. That is not going to be the case as we end the week, and certainly not going to be the case this weekend. Here's what's happening though. Just to our west, that's our next area of rain that's going to be moving into our region later on tonight. For now, we're nice and dry, and we are also bright. Temperatures along the Jersey Shore are in the 60s. We zoom out and a lot of us are in the 60s, so it is cooler compared to where we were just yesterday. It's 67 here in Philly, 64 in Trenton, 64 also the current temperature out towards the Allentown area. Slightly cooler at elevation, 56 right now in Mount Pocono. The next 12 hours look like this. Not bad. As we approach the height of the afternoon, those temperatures will climb into the low 70s. By 9 o'clock, we should see those clouds fill into the region, and shortly after midnight is when the rain begins to fall. Now, coming up next, we're going to take you through that rainfall and maybe impacting some parts of your morning commute. I'll have that part of my forecast in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Larissa. Authorities in Chester County are investigating a multi-vehicle accident involving a school bus with children on board. Chopper 3 was over the scene this morning at Stony Run Road and West Bridge Street. That's in East Vincent Township. One car appeared to crash into a tree. Fortunately, no kids on the bus were injured. One person was taken to Phoenixville Hospital. It's unclear what led to the crash.
New Jersey's governor announcing proposed legislation that would establish a statewide police licensing program, which would give the state the power to revoke the licenses of officers who engage in illegal or improper conduct.
This is a significant step forward for transparency and accountability, and to rebuilding the bonds of trust between police and residents, especially, not only, but especially in black and brown communities.
46 states already require law enforcement officers to be licensed. And new this noon, a former Minneapolis police officer has pleaded guilty to a state charge of aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter in the death of George Floyd. Thomas Lane was seen holding Floyd's legs as then-officer Derek Chauvin choked Floyd to death in May of 2020. Prosecutors will recommend a 3-year sentence for Lane. He and 2 other officers have already been convicted on federal counts of willfully violating Floyd's rights. The other 2 officers are scheduled to go on trial on state charges next month.
Now to the latest on the war in Ukraine. Russia says nearly 1,000 Ukrainian troops making their last stand in Mariupol have surrendered. An unknown number are still inside the steel plant there. A Russian soldier, meanwhile, has pleaded guilty to killing an unarmed Ukrainian civilian in the first war crimes trial. He could get life in prison. Meanwhile, Finland and Sweden have officially applied to join NATO, a move driven by security concerns over Russia. But NATO envoys so far have not reached consensus about whether to start membership talks.
U.S. Soccer has agreed to an equal pay deal for the men and women's teams. Now, one of the main sticking points was World Cup prize money. Under the new agreement, that money will now be pooled. U.S. Soccer will also share part of the revenue from broadcast partnerships and sponsorships with a 50-50 split between the men's and women's soccer teams. Still ahead, more pain at the pump here on Eyewitness News. Gas prices taking a big jump overnight in our area. We'll take a look at the numbers for you.
And they are some of the most popular vehicles on the road. Now they're being put to the test. The results are coming up. Well, gas prices went up overnight as the pain at the pump continues. According to AAA, the average price for a gallon of regular in the Philadelphia 5-county region is $4.86. That's up 10 cents overnight, 21 cents in the last week. In New Jersey, it's $4.68, up 7 cents overnight. And in the state of Delaware, it's $4.59, up 10 cents overnight. The national average, by the way, is $4.57. Some places in our region, it's even higher. In Spring Garden, the Gulf gas station was charging $5.24 for a gallon of regular early this morning. Experts blame supply issues combined with higher demand. They warn that we may be paying $6 by the end of the summer.
Oh my gosh, just painfully to even have to say that out loud.
Oh boy. Well, even though they guzzle gas, SUVs are some of the most popular vehicles on the road.
CBS News correspondent Naomi Ruckham shows us how certain models are holding up in the latest crash tests.
One by one, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety smashed into 18 different mid-size SUVs, looking to see how well they protect passengers in a side crash test. And this year's test was tougher. The IIHS introduced a larger barrier that travels faster to simulate the larger vehicles common on the road.
The growth of SUVs and pickup trucks in the United States has resulted in heavier vehicles being involved in these kinds of collisions.
IIHS President David Harkey says half the midsize SUVs tested received a good rating. The rest came in at acceptable or marginal. The results are much better than recent testing on 20 different small SUVs. Only one received a good rating.
Do you feel confident that car makers can and will make changes based on these results?
We are confident in the auto industry and that they will respond to this new test. There's no doubt that they can do it. It's just a question of how long it takes them to employ some of the additional, perhaps structural measures, restraint measures that will protect the occupants.
The IIHS will soon perform side crash tests on other vehicles, including sedans, to see how they handle the impact. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
All right, if you're planning a family trip this summer, listen up.
The experts at Philadelphia International Airport have tips that could make your time in the airport a little bit easier. Larissa.
Well, the weekend looks like this. It's going to be a hot one. Temperatures both Saturday and Sunday will be in the 90s. Get ready for a summer-like weekend with storms returning by Sunday. We'll be right back.
Philadelphia International Airport is preparing for its busiest season in 3 years. So today they shared some tips to help passengers speed up their trip through the airport.
We suggest that passengers arrive at least 2.5 hours before their flight for domestic trips and 3 hours before their flight for international trips.
Well, an estimated 7.68 million passengers are expected to pass through the airport between June and August.
Sunny skies and mild temperatures. It's a perfect day to get out and take a walk.
Yeah, can't wait. Meteorologist Larissa Ray tracking how long this nice weather is going to stick around before we get scorched with the hot weather ahead. Larissa.
It's going to turn hot, you guys. Yeah. We are talking temps in the 90s this weekend. It'll feel summer-like. It'll feel like we're in the summer by the time the weekend rolls around. We'll get to that in a moment, but current conditions show a few clouds have already filtered in, and those clouds will be high in the sky, thickening up here as the afternoon wears on. It's currently 67 degrees outside. Winds are nice and calm. Despite the clouds, visibility is looking good. That dew point reading right at 43 degrees. That simply tells me the air is still dry. And all in all, things are nice and quiet. We will continue to see these clouds move in at ahead of our next disturbance that's already crossing the border from Ohio into places like Pittsburgh. And we're going to continue to see this migrate through the state, eventually heading into our region as we head towards tonight. So let's go ahead and walk you through it. 1:30 in the morning shows widespread rain over our region, and denoted by the brighter returns, we can even see steady to moderate rainfall. Here's the good news about this. The rain will fall as many of you are sleeping in bed. So that's good news. As we continue to move the clock forward, here's 4:30, and we're still seeing widespread rain. We'll continue to push this clock forward, and by 7 a.m., a lot of that rain is beginning to taper off. But for some of you who will be waking up, getting your day started, if you find yourself across South Jersey along the shore, this is where it's still going to be raining. So you definitely just want to plan maybe 5, maybe 10 extra minutes during your morning commute. Wait this thing out, and it'll be out of here closer to 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. Clouds will also gradually clear as the day presses on, and Thursday, at least the second half of the day, is looking really nice. It's also going to get a little steamy here as we head towards Thursday afternoon, and then downright hot as our pattern continues to change. We'll see this lift in the jet stream. That'll allow for this warmer air to settle in place, and it is going to turn downright hot, summer-like, as I've been mentioning, over the next several days. So we're turning up the heat. Starting with tomorrow, we'll see gradual clearing, temperatures climbing into the low 80s, and we're also going to feel a little bit muggy here come Thursday afternoon. By Friday, we're in the 90s. Oh yeah, it's going to be a hot one with temperatures soaring into the upper 80s, low 90s, hazy sunshine as well. And talk about July, right? It'll feel like July, especially Saturday, where we are tracking highs climbing into the mid 90s. It'll be hot, it'll be steamy, and when you factor in the humidity, yes, some of you will feel like you're in the triple digits. Still hot, still steamy Sunday, but conditions do improve just in time for early next week. We'll be right back.
Finally, this noon, a celebration this morning at an elementary school in Philadelphia's only neighborhood.
Eyewitness News was at the James R. Lowell School for the opening of their new schoolyard. It got brand new playground equipment and room for the kids to stretch their legs. Members of the Sixers organization, including mascot Franklin, joined in the festivities.
This is a beautiful school in a beautiful space, and you've done a great job in designing all of this, and I hope you enjoy it. I enjoy being here today.
Mayor Kenny went on to thank the Sixers organization for their efforts in helping with the playground's transformation.
When you're a little kid, nothing like a brand new playground. That girl got all dressed up for the occasion. You see that?
Good stuff.
Looks like they're having a lot of fun.
Well, that's Eyewitness News for today at noon. I'm Jim Donovan.
And I'm Janelle Burrel. Thank you so much for watching. Eyewitness News continues at 4 or whenever news breaks. And of course, we're always online at cbsphilly.com.
Young and the Restless is coming up next.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
CBS 3 on your phone. Download the CBS News app, find CBS News Philly, and click away wherever, whenever. CBS News Philly.